कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। Hare Krishna everyone, once again, thank you so much for joining. Lasya just now joined us. Good morning Lasya. So today, let's continue from where we had stopped in the previous session. We all know that we have been discussing chapter 2 since last few weeks. And today is going to be another very interesting session because this is the last section of the chapter 2. And we had wonderful discussions in the previous weeks. Let's understand, try to know what Krishna is going to speak in this particular section of the Bhagavad Gita. So this whole session I dedicate to my beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. It's only by His mercy that I am able to speak whatever little bit I can in this path of spirituality. So this is how we have understood few important things about chapter 2. So in the very first section, that is from 2.1 to 2.10, we got to know that how Arjuna had lots of doubts. He continued his doubts in the first section, and then finally he surrendered to Krishna, seeking his guidance. So here in the next section of the Bhagavad Gita, very beautifully Krishna starts explaining Jnana Yoga to Arjuna. So that is from 2.11 to 2.30. Krishna very logically and rationally explains that how we are not this body, we are actually the spirit soul. He goes on to explain all the different qualities of the soul, that how the soul is eternal and it is indestructible. So none of us are actually going to die because the soul is eternal. So there is no birth and death for the soul. Right? So that is how Krishna explained in this whole section that we are the spirit soul and we are not this body. So Arjuna, just fight, because anyway you are not going to kill any of your relatives because they are going to be eternal. They are all eternal. And in section 3, that is from 2.31 to 2.38, Krishna explains the Karma Kanda section. He explains to Arjuna If you fight, then you will get to go to heavenly planets. If you fight, then you will be happy not just in this planet but also in the heavenly planet. Then you are going to be enjoying all this opulence on this planet. So Krishna was telling Arjuna, if you fight, this is the result. You will be glorified. You will become very victorious. And even if you don't, even if you lose the whole battle, you're still going to be getting wonderful result just by the act of fighting. So that is Karma Kanda, where you perform action because you're going to get something. And then gradually Krishna is elevating the consciousness of Arjuna by moving from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. It is also called as Buddhi Yoga. So from 2.39 to 2.53, which we have completed last week, Krishna beautifully explained the Karma Yoga section, that how you need to fight because for a higher consciousness. If you fight with Nishkama attitude without desiring for any result, that will elevate you. You will become detached from the result. So all these different concepts very beautifully Krishna has explained, and some of you who have missed the sessions, you can go back and again listen to them. It's all there in the links that I have already shared before, so that you get a repetition and you also get a good recap of what we have discussed. But now today Krishna is going to start a new section, and this is called the Sthita Prajna section, or it is a state of higher consciousness, still higher consciousness than what we generally think of. So Krishna is going to very beautifully explain here how a person, a transcendentalist, behaves. But for Krishna to speak on this, Arjuna is going to ask questions. So let's see what Arjuna is going to ask. Now Arjuna has heard all these different things. He has heard, oh okay, this you have explained me about the soul, you have explained me about karma, you have explained me about how to perform karma without any results. Krishna, I understand all these things, but I want to know, what are the symptoms of such a person? Who is this person? How does he act? What is this person all about? I want to know more about this person. So Arjuna is now intrigued. You have told me so many things about karma, jnana and everything. But now please tell me, Krishna, how will such a person act? Okay. So now I have, let me ask Dev to unmute. So Dev, unmute yourself and let's chant the very first verse for today. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasha.
Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasa.
Samadhistasya Keshava.
Samadhistasya Keshava.
Sthitadhi kim prabhasheta.
Sthitadhi kim prabhaseta.
Kim masita vrajeta kim.
Kim masita vrajeta kim.
Wonderful. Let's do that once again. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasha.
Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasa.
Samadhistasya Keshava.
Samadhistasya Keshava.
Sthitadhi kim prabhasheta.
Sthitadhi kim prabhaseta.
Kim masita vrajeta kim.
Kim masita vrajeta kim.
Wonderful. Please repeat the translation. Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one
What are the symptoms of one
whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence?
whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence?
How does he speak?
How does he speak?
And what is his language?
And what is his language?
How does he sit?
How does he sit?
And how does he walk?
And how does he walk?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So very interesting. Here Arjuna is asking the symptoms of a person who has achieved this consciousness, Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, or one whose consciousness is completely merged in transcendence. So when we say transcendence, moment you hear this word transcendence or transcendental, one thing should pop up in your mind. Transcendence means that which is beyond the three gunas. That is called transcendence or transcendental. Which are the three gunas? Anything that is beyond sattva guna, rajoguna and tamoguna, that is called as transcendental or transcendence. So all the activities or our consciousness right now is, or it falls within these three gunas. Any activity that we do, it actually falls in sattva guna, rajoguna and tamoguna. So when you start performing, when you have a consciousness in transcendence, it means you are above these three gunas. So Arjuna is asking, oh my dear Krishna, what is or what are the symptoms of person whose consciousness is transcendental? By the way, he is asking transcendental, but you see, what is he asking? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? We should not think that Arjuna is asking some trivial questions here. Although it may appear on a superficial platform that Arjuna on the battlefield he is asking about transcendental things and he wants to know about this person. In a way, he wants to know how does he speak. He wants to know what language. Oh, he speaks Italian, Greek, or Japanese, or Mandarin, or Sanskrit for that matter. No. Language and how does he sit and walk? Do you think that Arjuna is going to ask some trivial questions like this? Absolutely no. So that's why our acharyas have given a deeper meaning of these particular questions that Arjuna is asking. Arjuna specifically here is asking 4 questions. Okay, so Arjuna is asking 4 questions here. Please understand that these questions are extremely important because when we don't know or understand the questions of Arjuna, we will not understand what Krishna is going to give answers. The answers given by Krishna are extremely important. For that we need to know what Arjuna is asking. Is it not? So now, Krishna is going to explain all these questions very beautifully, and that is why it becomes extremely important for us to understand why Arjuna is asking these questions. Sthita Prajna. Who is a Sthita Prajna? Sthita Prajna, one whose consciousness is fixed, is called Sthita Prajna. So what is our aim through understanding this Bhagavad Gita? Ultimately, we all have to become Sthita Prajna. We have to become fixed in our consciousness. Right now our consciousness is constantly flickering. So we need to understand Bhagavad Gita and we also should become Sthita Prajna. So Arjuna is asking the symptoms of a Sthita Prajna. How do we identify such a person? See, every person in a specific field has a certain symptoms. For example, there are rich people. Rich people, it is very easy to know they are rich just by the symptoms they exhibit. A politician, just the way he behaves, just the way he conducts himself, the way his body language is, you know that he is a politician. Similarly, a sports person, he displays a certain symptoms. A diseased person who is a patient, he is suffering from some disease, he will also exhibit certain symptoms. So there are symptoms for different types of people. So here Arjuna is interested to know the symptoms of a person who is a transcendentalist. So that symptom is extremely important because we should know to identify who is the person who is transcendental. Because you may meet a lot of people every day in and out. You are meeting thousands of people every day in and out. How do you identify now who is actually a Sthita Prajna. So Krishna is going to tell all these answers now. So that's why it becomes very important to know. This question is to identify who is a Sthita Prajna by looking at the symptoms. So here Arjuna is saying Ka Bhasha. Ka Bhasha means Sthita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha. What language? Bhasha means language. What language does he speak? Our Acharyas explain Ka Bhasha also means how does a Sthita Prajna conducts himself. Extremely important. How does a Sthita Prajna conducts himself so that we know him, we understand. Bhashya also refers to description. For example, there is a very beautiful, Shankara Bhashya. Shankara has given his Bhashya on the Vedanta Sutra. Then Madhvacharya has given Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Then Baldev Vidyabhushan, to whom this Bhagavad Gita is actually dedicated by Prabhupada, is also written very beautiful Govinda Bhashya. So Bhashya also refers to description. It refers to literary work. So here Arjuna is asking, Ka Bhasha, what language? A Sthita Prajna, does he speak Italian or he speaks a German language? He speaks what language? Marathi, Gujarati? So we should know what does he speak. It actually means how does he conduct himself. He can be a Japanese. Sthita Prajna can be a German. Sthita Prajna can be a Chinese also. So it's important how does he conduct himself. And for this particular question, the very first question of Arjuna, Krishna will explain and give the answer in the verse number 55. That is the next verse. For this question number 1, answer is given in 55, 2.55. Krishna will explain this and answer to Arjuna's first question. Second question is, Kim Prabhashita? How does he speak? One is his language, Bhashya. How does he speak? This transcendentalist. So Arjuna, although he is asking how does he speak, the Acharyas explain that how does he speak? Kim Prabhashita means how does he respond to Sukha and Dukkha? This Sthita Prajna, how does he respond when there is Sukha in his life and when there is Dukkha in his life? How does he respond to these situations? So Kim Prabhashita means this is how we should know. So that is explained by Krishna in verse number 56 and 57. So this second question will be answered in the 56th and the 57th word of this particular chapter. And then Arjuna is asking the third question, Kim Asita? Asana, we have heard, no? Vyasasana. Asana means sitting place. Kim Asita? How does the Sthita Prajna sit? So there is always a literary meaning and there is a figurative meaning. So Arjuna, although is asking how does this sit, we should not take it in a literary sense. Because Arjuna is not simply asking, oh, how will the Sthita Prajna sit? There is a figurative meaning, and that's what Acharyas are explaining. And how does he sit means, how does he disengages himself or disengages his senses. Extremely important. Please understand this. How does the Sthita Prajna disengages his senses? He withdraws his senses. Let me give you an example of disengagement. You know, there is an office. Imagine there is an office set up and there is a manager. So the manager wants to know what are his team members doing. So what he does is, he actually sends one of his peon and asks him to go and check out what are the team members doing. Go check it and come. So the peon goes and he goes and checks. And he comes back and informs the manager that all the team members are just sitting. They are simply sitting, my dear sir. So, just by this answer of peon, what will the manager infer? Just sitting? Just sitting means they are disengaged. The team members are sitting idle and they are disengaged. They are not engaged in any activity. So, sitting, just sitting means what it infers? It infers they are actually disengaged. So when Arjuna is asking, Kim Asita? So he is actually asking the Sthita Prajna, how does he withdraws or disengages his five senses? Very important, let's understand this. And this will be explained by Krishna from verse number 58 to 64. Disengagement of the senses is very beautifully explained by Krishna in the verse number 58 to 64. And then the final question, which is very easy to guess, Vrajeta Kim. Vrajeta, Vraja means movement. Vrajeta Kim, how does he walk? How does the Sthita Prajna walk? So, it is very easy to know. One is Kim Asita, disengagement. And now Arjuna is asking, how does he engage his senses without being bound by the reactions? See, we are all performing actions. When we perform action, there is a reaction. So Krishna, here Arjuna is asking, how does a Sthita Prajna, he does a lot of activities, but although he is doing activities, how does he disengages himself? How does he engages himself without getting bound by the reaction? So these are the four important questions, and unless we actually hammer these questions in our brain, it's not very easy to understand what Krishna is going to explain in the next verses. So that's why it becomes extremely important to know the reason why Arjuna is asking these beautiful questions. So he has asked these four questions. So Ka Bhasha, Kim Prabhashita, Kim Asita, and Vrajeta Kim. So these are the symptoms of the Sthita Prajna. And very beautifully, Prabhupada in this Bhagavad Gita, as it is here, in the purport, is giving an explanation to this particular word. And very beautifully, I just want to read out this whole paragraph. Please listen carefully. This is extremely important. Please listen. The most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow as stated below. So one very important symptom of a God conscious person, of a spiritual person, is that he speaks only about the Supreme Lord. The moment he opens his mouth, he will speak about the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is one of the greatest symptoms of a transcendentalist. See, we are constantly talking. We speak every day in and out, isn't it? So whenever we speak, what do we speak? From morning till evening, our day is filled with questions and answers. What time did you get up? I woke up at 7 o'clock. What time did you have a breakfast? I had it at 8 a.m. What did you have for breakfast? I had upma. Okay, what time are you going to school, college and office? If you analyze, the whole day is actually filled with questions and answers. In office there is question answer, at home there is question answers. So we are constantly discussing so many things, but it is all related to materialistic things. We are constantly discussing only about roti, kapda, makan or survival. We are talking only about how do I survive. Oh, now corona is there. Have you worn your mask? Are you sanitizing your hands? Constantly we are talking, but our talking is only related to the body. That's all. So the symptom of a Sthita Prajna is he is not going to talk about all these things. He will talk only about the Supreme Lord. That is the greatest symptom to identify a person who is God conscious, who is Krishna conscious. Extremely important. So, how do you identify a Sthita Prajna? He is constantly talking about Krishna. Whether it is one person or 1,000 people, he will only talk about Krishna. He opens his mouth to speak only about Krishna. That is the Sthita Prajna. That is yoga, engaging your senses in the service of Krishna. So this is the greatest thing, and many people may dress very well. You know, many people, even a fool, he has no knowledge, he is completely off. He may be very well dressed, and people may think, oh, what a nice person. But that moment he opens his mouth, we know how great that person is. So just by looking at the externals, we should not judge a person. And a person may be sometimes very tachily dressed. I mean, he is quite shabbily dressed, but again, we should not think that he is a fool, because sometimes such people are quite intelligent. So this is the case of Jada Bharat. Sometimes I'll explain you this beautiful story, how he was so shabbily dressed and he was actually insulted by the king. And then he goes on explaining the beautiful knowledge of Krishna consciousness to this king. So again, so we should not judge a person by external symptoms. How do we identify a Sthita Prajna? By his speech. Identification of a Sthita Prajna is very easy when he opens his mouth. He will only speak about Krishna. So now, since Arjuna has asked these 4 questions, let's see what Krishna is going to give answers to these particular questions of Arjuna. So let me ask Hina Mataji, please unmute yourself and let's chant the next verse, the 55th verse. Please repeat. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Prajahati yada kama.
Prajahati yada kama.
Sarvan parthamanogatan.
Sarvan partha manogatan.
Atmanyevatmanattushtaha.
Atmanne evatmana tushtaha.
Sthita prajnastadoচ্yate.
Sthita prajnastadoচ্yate.
Wonderful. Once again, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Prajahati yada kama.
Prajahati yada kama.
Sarvan parthamanogatan.
Sarvan partha manogatan.
Atmanyevatmana tushtaha.
Atmanne evatmana tushtaha.
Sthita prajnastadoচ্yate.
Hita prajnashtatoshtache.
Wonderful. Please repeat the translation. The blessed Lord said,
The blessed Lord said,
O Partha,
O Partha,
when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire,
when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire,
which arise from mental concoction,
which arise from mental concoction,
and when his mind finds satisfaction
and when his mind finds satisfaction
in the self alone,
in the self alone,
then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
Thank you, Mother.
Thank you.
So here, Krishna is giving answer to the very first question of Arjuna, Ka Bhasha. How does Asthita Prajna conduct himself? So Krishna is saying, O Partha, that such a man, he conducts himself in such a way that he gives up all the sense desires, especially sense desires which arise from mental concoction, all because of the speculation of the mind. So such things are rejected by Asthita Prajna. And he finds satisfaction in the self alone. Atmanevatmanatushtaha. He is satisfied completely in his pure consciousness. It is his own self, the Atman. So let us understand now, word by word, a little bit about this word. It's very interesting. So, who is the Sthita Prajna? It is one who gives up all sensual activities. He is not interested in any of the activities or happiness derived from the mind. Our mind has a lot of desires, and when those desires get fulfilled, we are happy. When the desires are unfulfilled, we become very miserable. We become sukha is there is dukha is there. Why? Because there are certain desires in the mind to which we are attached. So Sthita Prajna, he never entertains such mental desires. If you want to become a Sthita Prajna, then you should not entertain all the desires that your mind is generating. Because mind's function is to keep on generating desires all the time, constantly. Is it not? The mind, on an average, it produces about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And 90% of all these thoughts are all negative. So the mind is constantly desiring for many things. Constantly. So that is why we should know that everything that is mental is not spiritual. That which is mental is not spiritual. I want to make this very clear to all of you. It's very interesting to know that we all have 3 levels of existence. I had explained this to you before also, but I want to make it very clear here as well. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So, you see, the 3 levels of existence is the gross body, the subtle body, and the soul. The gross body is the external body that we have, the outer body that we have, which is made up of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So, this is called the gross body. Then, there is another layer of existence that we have, that is called the subtle body, Shukshma Sharira. One is Stula Sharira, gross body. The other is Shukshma Sharira, which is not perceivable, but it exists. And what is the Shukshma Sharira consist of? Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this is called the subtle body. And then there is the soul. And what are the characteristics of the soul? Eternity, knowledge and bliss. Sat, Chit and Ananda. This is your true existence. Your true identity is that you are the soul. So this Sthita Prajna is Atmannevatmanat Tushtaha. He derives pleasure at the level of the soul and not at the level of body and the mind. So much difference is there. We see. But we, on the contrary, we derive happiness and distress at the level of what? At the gross body and the subtle body. If an ant comes and bites me, it gives me pain. If there is nice air conditioning, then I feel very pleasurable. Then there is subtle body, someone glorifies us. Oh, you are looking so beautiful. You feel so nice about it. So it gives you pleasure at the level of mind. Somebody tells you, oh, you are looking so ugly today. Then, you feel very distressed inside. So that is happening at the level of mind. So, a Sthita Prajna is not disturbed by these external things. But now you may think, Prabhuji, mind is not external. No, mind is internal. What we generally think is, anything that is outside this body is external. And anything that which is inside the body is internal. Right? This is our understanding. But it is not true. Everything that is within you is not you. Please understand. So the mind, although inside this body, is not you. The mind is internal to the body, but the mind is external to the soul. If you look at this image, it is very clear to you that the mind is in between the gross body and the soul. So you are actually the soul, so the mind is external. So even the mind is external from the perspective of the soul. So mind is not you. So when your mind is constantly generating this desire, they are not your desires actually. The mind is actually running in an autopilot mode. Right now, if I have to speak, actually we all are in autopilot mode. What do I mean by autopilot mode? You know what is autopilot mode? When the airplane is flying, the pilot actually, he knows, he fixes the destination and the direction, and then he keeps the flight in autopilot mode, and nicely he is listening to some music or does whatever he wants, and everything is taken care. So that is exactly what is happening to us right now. Although we are trying to do so many things, but it is actually done in autopilot mode. Why? Because mind is overtaken. The mind is the software. It has overtaken and it has already some preconceived programs, and it is running in the autopilot mode. So the soul is sleeping. All of us are simply sleeping. We don't know what we are doing. A Sthita Prajna is not like that. He is completely awake and he derives happiness and pleasure at the level of the soul. So that is a Sthita Prajna. That's why this mind is actually, it is the root of all consciousness. I am telling you, this mind is the root of consciousness. All our activities are happening at this central point called the mind. If you can control the mind, then spirituality becomes very, very easy. This mind is constantly planning. All throughout the day, what is the mind doing? Planning. What planning? Financial planning, relationship planning, there is career planning, there is charity planning, there is some spiritual program is there, let me plan for that. So constantly we are planning, and the mind is engaged in planning all the time. Arjuna, before this war began, he was planning, yes, I am going to fight and finish all these Kauravas. They gave poison to my brother Bhima. They tried to kill us in the Lakshagraha, in the palace of wax. They insulted my wife. I have a plan and I am going to destroy them. That was before the war. On the battlefield, Arjuna got another plan now. I am not going to fight. No, this is not going to work. So he changed his plan. So all these plans, constantly the mind is planning, sometimes favorably, sometimes the mind is unfavorably planning. So this way the mind is constantly putting us back and forth, back and forth. That is why Prabhupada uses a very beautiful word here, mental concoction. What is a concoction? You know, we have this coffee concoctions or the tea concoctions that we get. So this is a mental concoction. Our mind, with so many varieties of desires, has become a concoction. It is called mental concoction. So Sthita Prajna will never take pleasure in such concoction of the mind. He is completely aloof from such concoctions. Very important to understand. That is why when we plan, we should not think that all my plans will be successful. Many times we fail, sometimes we may also execute and become successful in our plans. It is possible because according to our karma, our plans will be successful, our plans will also get destroyed sometimes. But at the end, if you carefully see, no matter how many material plans we do in life, all our plans will ultimately get destroyed. That is why when we become very busy in executing our own plans, even victory is a defeat. And when we execute the plan of Krishna, the plan of the Lord, then even a defeat becomes a victory. Let me repeat that. Let me explain this very importantly. When we execute our plans, our victory also becomes defeat. Why? Because no matter how successful we become in this lifetime, earning money and relationships and name and fame and power, But at the point of death, everything will be lost, and that's the greatest defeat. Everything that you had acquired will all go away. So that's the greatest defeat. So we may plan so many things and we may also become successful, but at the point of death, everything is gone. But on the contrary, when you execute the plan of Krishna, then although you may get defeated, you are still victorious. It's a very beautiful pastime in the Bhagavatam. Some of you, Hina Mataji and others who were listening, there was a very beautiful pastime in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam of Vritrasura. This Vritrasura was a demon. This Vritrasura was such a great demon. Although in a demon form, he was the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu. And then he's asking Indra, come on Indra, kill me. He's ready to die. Why? Because he knows, although he may get defeated, he's going to get the supreme abode of the Lord. So for a devotee, he may get defeated here, but he will get the ultimate victory after this death. So that is how a Sthita Prajna thinks. A Sthita Prajna is not attracted to temporary success. That is why, very beautifully, if you see this explanation here, it is called Tushtaha. Atman evatmanah tushta. Tushtaha means tushti, satisfaction. Are you satisfied? My question to all of you. Are you satisfied in life? If you are satisfied, then definitely you are tushtaha. Prabhuji, I am satisfied sometimes, I am satisfied and I am not satisfied sometimes. In that case, then yes, at least you are in the process of becoming tushtaha, sthita prajna. You are in the process. But if you are not satisfied with your life, then you are not tushta, you are not satisfied. Actual ultimate satisfaction comes when we serve the Supreme Lord. When we take up to spirituality. Atmannevatmana tushtaha. You have to realize yourself and seek pleasure at the soul level. That will give you satisfaction. That will give you complete. That will make you tushtaha. Very, very nice. Sthita prajnas tadochyate. See, rajahati yada kaman. Then sthita prajnas tadochyate. Yada tada. If you do this, then tada. That is what is you are going to get. Yada tada. You do this, you are going to become that. So if you are not engaged in manogatan, the mental concoction, then you will become tada. That is, you will be satisfied. Tadochyate. That is very nicely explained by Krishna. If you are not tushtaha, only busy in planning material things, then there will be heartburns. There will be pangs in your heart. You will never become satisfied. Right? So we should not focus on the internal, we should not focus on the externals, but we should actually take pleasure inwards. Now some of you may question and ask, Prabhuji, you are telling me this, we have to get pleasure at the level of soul, but isn't all the spiritual things also external now? Right now you are listening to this particular session, you are externally listening, right? Material objects, like you take some prasadam, or you look at the deity of the Lord in the temple, you see the form of the Lord. All these are external things, right? You are chanting the mantra, is that not external? Yes. Spiritual sense objects, although they may appear to be external, but actually they take us inward. What do I mean by that? When you actually keep yourself busy with the spiritual sense objects like prasadam, like looking at the deity, chanting the mantra, they may appear to be external, but they take you inwards. This is the difference between the materialistic things and the spiritual sense objects. Okay, so this is what Krishna has explained in this particular verse. So let's go to the next verse now, that is verse number 56. And very beautifully Krishna is further going to explain the next question of Arjuna. So Vinodji, please unmute yourself and let's chant this next verse, that is verse number 56. Dukheshu anudvignamanaha
दुःखेषु अनुविघ्नमनः
Sukheshu vigataspраha
सुखेषु विगः प्रशस्ता
Vitaraga bhaya krodha
वीतराग भय क्रोधः
Stitadher muniruchyate.
स्थितधीर मुनि उच्यते
Once again, Dukheshu anudvignamanaha
दुःखेषु अनुविघ्नमनः
Sukheshu vigataspраha
सुखेषु विगः स्पर्शः
Vitaraga bhaya krodha
वीतराग भय क्रोधः
Stitadher muniruchyate.
स्थितधीर मुनि उच्यते
Wonderful. Please repeat the translation. One who is not disturbed
one who is not disturbed
in spite of the threefold miseries,
in spite of the threefold miseries,
who is not elated
who is not elated
when there is happiness,
when there is happiness,
and who is free from attachment,
and who is free from attachment,
fear, and anger,
fear and anger,
is called a sage of steady mind.
is called a sage of steady mind.
Thank you so much, Vinod.
Thank you.
So here, Arjuna had asked a very interesting question, and he had said that Kim Prabhashita. Kim Prabhashita means how does a Sthita Prajna respond to Sukha and Dukha? So that's why Krishna is explaining here Dukheshu Anudvignamanaha. Anudvignamanaha. Anudvigna means without being agitated. Anudvigna means he is never agitated. Sukheshu Vigataspriha. Vigataspriha means without being too attached. He is not attached at all. So this Titadir Muniruchyate. Let's understand this. Very important words again. So I have a question for all of you. When you face Sukha in your life, how do you react? And when you face Dukha, how do you react? Think about it for a few seconds and then answer me. How do you react to Sukha and Dukha in your life? Think about it for a few seconds. And each one of us have our own quota of Sukha and Dukha, and based on that, we respond. And okay, in the comment section, let's see what is Lasya saying that Sukha means I'm going to thank God and my family. Wonderful, Lasya. What about Dukha? How do we react to Dukha in our life? If you want to unmute yourself and explain, also is fine. Briefly. So Hina Mataji is saying Sukha means okay when gratefulness and happiness. Okay, when there is Sukha, whether it is Sukha at the level of body or the Sukha at the level of mind or at the Sukha at the level of soul, we become very grateful to the people and also we express happiness. And Dukha, questioning our past karmas and God. This is the question. Questioning our past karma. If you are conscious, yes, we ask our past karma, and sometimes we also start blaming God. Many times I have seen people, when there is dukkha in their life, when there is a lot of misery in the life, somehow there is an internal feeling. People think that actually I don't deserve to be so miserable. Many people think that when there is problem in their life, I don't deserve this. I really don't deserve this. That's why they go and blame the God. Oh Lord, I don't deserve this, but still this problem is coming to me. It's all because of you. You know, there was that Amitabh Bachchan one movie, I don't remember. He goes to the temple and he's blaming the god. You know, all this problem is because of you, my dear Lord. Amitabh Bachchan is saying in that movie. So many times we are in the blame game. You know, we want to blame. When there is dukkha, we want to blame others. We don't want to accept the reality. We don't want to take the responsibility for our mistakes. Right? We should be like, you know, sometimes when you're walking on the street and accidentally when you stumble upon a stone, do you really curse yourself or you try to curse the stone? No. You stumbled upon a little bit, then you walk away. You look at the stone and then you just walk away. You don't really curse the stone or curse yourself. You know it's okay, it's my mistake. I just I lost my focus and it's okay. You just move on. Right? So similarly, when miseries come into our life, problems come into our life, this attitude will help us. Just like when you stumbled upon and you just move away without cursing yourself or the stone, when you get problems in your life, you should just move on. Okay, it's just because of my lack of focus, something that I have done in the karma. Even few decades ago, about 2-3 decades ago, people used to think that when there is problem, okay, oh, mera karma hai. You know, something I have done in the past, that's why I am suffering. And that gave them a lot of satisfaction. At the same time, they used to be peaceful. But today, the modern generation is not like that. Everybody is thinking, I am the doer, I am doing everything, I am the master. And when the results don't come, then they become frustrated. Then there is dukkha. So good, wonderful. So Hina Mataji is saying that karma and God. And Sai Raju is saying dukkha when we extremely sad for artificial desire. Exactly. So sometimes dukkha comes and it extensively comes when we are trying to get artificial desire. By the way, my question is, how do you respond or react to sukha and dukkha in your life? So Lasya is saying dukkha, one should ideally pray to God. Okay. One should ideally pray to God. That is very good answer, Lasya. But what are you doing right now? How are you reacting right now is my question. Are you doing that? Praying to God when there is dukkha. And Kumar is saying, Uma Kumar, I feel both are the same. Nothing is permanent. Okay. Sukha, dukkha, nothing is permanent. Absolutely. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha. We had understood that. Nothing, happiness and dukkha is really not happiness, not permanent in this. We have understood that. But how do you react? This is the question. Yes, Mataji is saying there is a movie called Zivar and she remembered. Thank you so much for making me aware of that movie's name. Thank you. So yeah, and then Sai Raju is saying we become sad when dukkha comes. We feel so happy when there is good result. Absolutely. So Dev, okay, finally you answered. Sukha means grateful. Dukkha, we remember God. Okay, I'm happy with the answer. You remember God when there is dukkha. Most people don't do that. They remember the bottle or they remember a cigarette when there is dukkha. Most people do that. So good, I'm glad that you don't do that. Wonderful. And Lasya is saying, I have not really prayed to God in my life, only once when my sister was ill. But I think many feel good while praying. Good, very nice. So Lasya is saying that she doesn't really pray, but then at least once she has prayed. Good that at least once you have prayed. Now you can continue praying more and more. Yes, it actually feels very good when you pray, and you should really start praying so that you feel that tushtaha. If you want to feel satisfaction in life, then you need to pray. That's extremely important. So let's understand now, what is Krishna saying here? So dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, absolutely he is not even sukheshu. In sukha, most of the people, we think that let me remain in this comfort zone. Oh, there is a lot of sukha now, let me not endeavor for any more thing. Anyway, I am getting nice roti kapda makan. Why should I endeavor? Let me become happy and just remain as it is. So many people also think like that. They remain in comfort zone when there is a lot of sukha. Isn't it? You see, when there is a lot of comfort around you, you don't want to go that extra mile. Many people stay in the comfort zone and they never come out of the comfort zone because there is already so much of sukha. So Sukha can keep you in comfort zone, which is not good, especially if you want to become a spiritualist. Many people think that Prabhuji, now you are becoming a spiritual person. If we become spiritual, that means you will completely be free from all the miseries of life. No, let me tell you, it's not going to happen. As long as you are in this world, you will have to face dukkha. Whether you are a spiritualist or not a spiritualist, dukkha will come. Just by becoming a spiritualist, it is not that we are not going to face problems in life. Problems will still come. Did the Pandavas did not face problems? So many problems. Problems after problems. Kunti Maharani faced problems. Dhruva Maharaj faced problems. Prahlad Maharaj faced problems. All the great devotees that we see in our Vedic scriptures all have gone through so much of problems in their life. So, becoming devotee doesn't mean that you will become free from problems. No, we should never think that now I am attending Bhagavad Gita sessions, I am chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and now I will become free from all the miseries. No, you will not be. You will still get problems. But since you are practicing spirituality and understanding the Bhagavad Gita, you will know how to respond to these external situations, sukha and dukkha. You will never get disturbed. Although the problems will come, you will be detached. They will not affect you. Just like the lotus in the kichad. You see, it's all surrounded by kichad. All the dirt, but still it is unaffected. So we are in this kichad of material existence. This material world is full of all dirty, obnoxious things. But we will be like lotus. We will be away from all the kichad, unattached, completely pure, just like the lotus in the kichad. So that is what spirituality and the knowledge, the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita will do to us. I'll give you this very beautiful example of Swami Prabhupada itself. See, my spiritual master, when he was born here in India, in Kolkata, he was growing up and he was also a part of the Gandhi movement at that time. He wanted to fight for the Gandhi movement in 1920s, and then later on he came in touch with his spiritual master Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, and then there were so many rejections. At the age of 65, he was all alone in Vrindavan. He was trying to preach, print some magazine. Nobody was supporting him. Financially, he was completely down, and his own family members rejected, and his god brothers were not helping him in any way. And with that, so much of pain and struggle, he goes in a cargo ship all the way to America, a free ticket actually, and he suffered 2 heart attacks in the ship, in the cargo ship, and all alone in America with no people around him, nobody known to him. He's chanting in the park, absolutely all alone, with no support. So much of pain and miseries constantly, but he had one faith. Prabhupada had one faith, and that faith is on the instructions of his spiritual master and complete dependence and surrender to Krishna, that Krishna will make it happen. And with that, so much of pain, he established this wonderful movement called the ISKCON movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And today we see people following our Vedic culture all across the world just because of the dedication of one single person, that is Srila Prabhupada, who actually transformed hippies into happies. All the hippies were converted to happies. They became so happy in their life. And when there were lot of wonderful things, when the temples came up and lot of devotees, there is so much of sukha, still Prabhupada was equipoised. Not that he was carried away by the glamour and the glorification that he was getting. He was equipoised. So whether sukha or dukkha, you should know to be sthita prajna, be equipoised. So wonderful actually, it's very important. And such people who are sthita prajna, they are always very daring in the service of the Lord. They never take a back step when it comes to the service of the Lord. When there is seva opportunity, they will take the first step to move ahead. they never sit in a comfort zone. So please, if you want to become a spiritualist, do not remain in comfort zones. You should actually strive to come out of the comfort zone. Only when you stretch yourself in spirituality, then you will become strong. See, when you go to a gym, you lift 2 kgs initially, right? When you lift 2 kgs, yes, you develop muscles. Then when you get strength, you stretch yourself and then you lift 5 kgs. But if you simply keep on lifting 2 kgs, you don't stretch, your muscles will not develop. So if you want to really develop your spiritual muscles, then you have to come out of the comfort zone. Don't remain in the comfort zone. How do I come out of the comfort zone? If you are chanting 2 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra, make it 4. If you are reading 1 hour of Bhagavad Gita every day, make it 1.5 hours. So that way you should keep on increasing your spiritual muscles. Right? Hanuman, what a daring person. All the way he went to Lanka, so much of troubles and so many challenges. But he was very daring. Just while even crossing the ocean, there were 3 obstructions. That the Mainak mountain comes, and that Sankarshini comes, Lankini comes. So many vignas were there. But still he was very daring. He burnt the whole Lanka and he came back. That is daring. That is a Sthita Prajna. So we should be like Hanuman. We should be Sthita Prajna like that. Right? And here, Sthitadhir Munir Uchyate. Muni. Who is a Muni? Muni means one who is a mental speculator. Prabhupada gives this example, and that is how Prabhupada defines in the purport. Muni is a mental speculator. There are many Munis in this current world. If you see the so-called PhDs that we get, oh, I am a PhD, I am this PhD, I am that PhD. All are Munis actually. I recently came across someone who was telling me that, there are people who are doing a PhD on cancer, and the study is they have found out that people who wear blue socks, they don't actually attract cancerous cells, but people who wear red socks, they attract cancerous cells. They are the ones who are going to be more prone to cancer, those who wear red socks, and those who wear blue socks are not very prone to cancer. So, Munis are people who keep on speculating so many things without any conclusions. There was another very beautiful analogy. Once there was a bird, and the bird came and sat on the branch. And when the bird came and sat on the branch, the fruit, it fell. When the fruit fell, the bird flew. So the bird sat, the fruit fell, and the bird flew back again. So looking at this particular instance, different Munis, they give different reasons for the whole instance. Some will say, oh, because the bird sat on the branch and there was some vibration, the fruit fell. Some will say, no, fruit fell because it was very ripe. Then they say that no, actually the fruit fell not by sitting, the bird sitting on the branch, but because it flew away, the fruit fell. Some will say, no, the bird sat on the branch, the fruit fell, because the fruit fell, the bird became afraid and it flew away. You see how people are reasoning? The same situation, but many Munis will give different conclusions. They come at different conclusions. So that is what is happening today. Many people, they talk many big things, big terminologies, but conclusions are all different. They never have any fixed conclusions. That is not what is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita will give you conclusive answers. Nishchitam bruhitan me. Bhagavad Gita is here to give you nishchitam answers, conclusive answers. So we shouldn't become just a Muni. We are not here to become Munis. Right? And then Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. Who is a Sthita Prajna? A Sthita Prajna is one who is free. Vita means free from what? Raga. Raga means attachment. There is positive attachment, there is negative attachment. Positive attachment to the family, positive attachment to the people whom you love. That is positive attachment. Negative attachment is for the people whom you hate. That's also an attachment only. Constantly you will be thinking of that person, especially when you hate someone, he is always in your mind. Kamsa, he was so much hateful towards Krishna, he was always thinking of Krishna. So when you actually hate someone, they occupy so much of your consciousness. So never hate anyone because you will be so much absorbed in their thoughts. It will take away so much of your consciousness. Never hate anyone. So raga, attachment, positive attachment and negative attachment. Sthita Prajna is free from that. Then raga dvesha is free from both raga and dvesha. Bhaya, he is also free from bhaya, fearfulness. When there is attachment, there is fear. When there is no attachment, there is no fear. When you are attached to this mobile, you have the fear of losing it. But if you are not attached, even if you lose it, it's okay, I'll take another one. But if you are too much attached, it will create a lot of fear. Even before it is lost, you will be fearful. You will be constantly thinking, oh, what will, if I go in the crowd, who will pick me up? Actually, it happened to me. Last year, when we went to Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra, lakhs and lakhs of people. And I also, with the full Rath Yatra and people, I was so absorbed in looking at the Lord. My wife and I, both of us were engaged in looking at the Lord. And gradually in that, somebody came and picked away my mobile and I lost my mobile. Then as a formality, when I went to the police station to give a complaint that, sir, I have lost my mobile. Then he showed me a big queue of people who had all lost their mobile. Then I thought, okay, gone. I am not going to get anything anyway. There were some foreigners. They were like, let my mobile go. I don't care. It is very expensive mobile. I don't care. But I lost the photographs of the Lord. And that is very painful for me. There were many foreign devotees who felt so bad because they had clicked so many photographs in the mobile phone and they lost it. Because foreigners are not allowed. The Muslims and any other religion people are not allowed in the temple in Jagannath Puri. They can see the Lord only when the Lord comes out in the Rath Yatra time. So they had taken photographs and it's all gone. So they were very upset about it. So anyway, what I am trying to say here is, bhaya comes, fearfulness comes when you are attached. But you are not attached, then there is no fear. You become abhaya. And krodha. You become free from krodha. Attachment will lead to fearfulness. And ultimately, when you lose something, when you are attached to something and that is lost, you become frustrated. That frustration will lead to krodha, anger. You become angry. So, Sthita Prajna is not so much anudvigna manaha. He is not disturbed by dukkha. Neither is he elated by sukha. He is not attached to anything. He is free from fear. He is free from also anger. This is a Sthita Prajna. Very nice. So let's go to the next verse.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay. Yah sarvatra nabi sneha.
Yes, sarvatra visnehas.
Tat prapya shubha shubham.
Tat prapya shubhasanam.
Nabhinandati nadveshti.
Nabhinandati nadveshti.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Once again. Yah sarvatra nabi snehas.
Yah sarvatra visnehas.
Tat prapya shubha shubham.
Tat prapya shubhashubham.
Nabhinandati nadveshti.
न विनन्दति न द्वेष्टि
tasya prajna pratishtita.
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
Wonderful. Please repeat the translation. He who is without attachment,
He who is without attachment,
who does not rejoice
who does not rejoice
when he obtains good,
when he obtains good,
nor lament when he obtains evil,
nor lament when he obtains evil,
is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
Thank you, Lasya.
Thank you, sir.
So here, he who is without attachment, it is gender neutral, although it is said he, it also means she. So it is both. So man and woman. So Sthita Prajna can be a man, it can be a woman also. Okay? So yah sarvatran abhisneha tat tat prapya shubha shubham na vinandati na dveshti tasya prajna pradashita. Very beautiful. So let's quickly understand this very nice verse. So here there is sometimes tat tat prapya shubha shubham is there, and sometimes there is unfavorable things. In life there are certain upheavals that will come. Upheavals means that thing which will distract you from the Lord. That thing which will distract you, anything that distracts you is an upheaval. You have certain goals, there is an upheaval, it will distract you from the goals. But sometimes these upheavals are also very good. Sometimes the distraction, for example, some good things, this upheavals will also give you good result. You may think how? You see, when you are too much in comfort zone, when there is only sukha, there is a tendency in us to lower our guards. What do I mean? We become very inattentive. We become not very alert when there are no upheavals in life. And we lower our guard, and when we lower our guard, our mental guard or whatever it is, spiritual guard, it can lead to fall down. Many times it happens that we become very complacent. When there are no upheavals, we become complacent, and that complacency can lead to problems. Many great people, even spiritualists, many great spiritualists, they have fallen down because of complacency. So, we should never become complacent in this material world. Never become complacent. There is a very beautiful example of this. In Mahabharata, on the 13th day, on the 10th day, Bhishma fell on the bed of arrows. 11th day, Drona became the commander-in-chief. 12th day, Abhimanyu was mercilessly killed on the 12th day of Mahabharata. And he was killed by all the Maharathis of the Kaurava, party. Everyone was surrounded Abhimanyu and they killed him. Then Arjuna took a vow that tomorrow I am going to kill Jayadratha. And if I don't kill Jayadratha, I will kill myself. I will jump into the funeral pyre and I will kill myself. Arjuna took that vow that tomorrow I am going to kill Jayadratha. On the 13th day, Arjuna, he is already a great warrior, but because now he has lost his very dear son Abhimanyu, he's become even more ferocious. He's become very furious. And he is ambidextrous. Arjuna is ambidextrous. He can shoot arrows from left hand, he can shoot arrows from right hand, both. He is an expert. So, on 13th day of Mahabharata, Abhimanyu, Arjuna was shooting arrows left and right. He is shooting arrows, and in the evening time, he came to a position that Arjuna is surrounded by many Maharathis. Duryodhana, what he has done is, he has sent many, about 5 Maharathis to fight against Arjuna. And Arjuna is fighting with everyone. And arrows are just passing through him, just inches away from him. You can imagine the situation, you know. So many, like there are machine guns where multiple bullets are fired. Here he is facing multiple arrows, all shot at him. And Arjuna is in a very critical situation. And the sun is setting and Jayadratha is absconding somewhere. And what to do now at this situation? It so happened by the mercy of Lord, Krishna arranged it in such a way that the sun was covered by his Sudarshan Chakra. So when the sun was covered by his Sudarshan Chakra, all the Kauravas, including Arjuna, thought that sun has set and I lost, I could not kill Jayadratha. And these Kauravas, they became so jubilant. You know, they became so happy and they all started coming in front, including Jayadratha. So Jayadratha also thought, oh, now I can come in front of Arjuna, and he came and told Arjuna, you see, now you are going to climb the funeral pyre. So what happened now was, this moment of victory for the Kauravas actually made them complacent. They became so complacent that they did not realize that the sun had actually not set. And here Krishna tells Arjuna, don't keep your bow and arrow down. And Arjuna just followed what Krishna was saying. And just then, when Jayadratha was in front of Krishna and Arjuna, the Sudarshan Chakra moved and the sun reappeared, and there Arjuna, he shot the arrow, and he shot in such a way that it actually chopped off his head, and Jayadratha had a boon from his own father that anybody who chops off my son's head, his head should burst. And it so happened that Krishna knew about his boon, and Krishna told Arjuna, use your Brahmastra and shoot an arrow in such a way that you chop the head of Jayadratha, and then the head should go and fall on the lap of his own father, who was meditating nearby. And this head, the cut head of Jayadratha, was taken by the arrow into the lap of his own father. And there, this father of Jayadratha looks at the cut head, the skull, and immediately throws it away on the ground. And then he became the cause of actually putting the head down on the ground, and his own father's head burst and he died. So both the father and the son died. So this is the master stroke of Krishna. So the point here is, when you become complacent, just like the Kauravas, with little temporary success, when you become complacent, it can actually bring you a lot of trouble. So never become complacent in life. When there is so much of sukha around you, you should never become inattentive to spiritual activities. Many people give up spiritual activities when everything is going smooth. Only when there are problems, oh my Lord, please solve my problem, please solve my problem. That is our attitude. No, we should not do that. Never become complacent in spiritual life. And that is how we should lead our life, and we should become Sthita Prajna. So today we have covered 2 questions of Arjuna, that is, Ka Bhasha, how does one conduct, Sthita Prajna conducts himself, and Kim Prabhashita, how does he respond to Sukha and Dukkha. So these are the 2 questions which are answered by Krishna. And in the next session, we will continue to cover the 2 more questions of Arjuna, and that is Kim Asita and Vrajeta Kim. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me questions. I think there are some questions in the comment section. Let me take the questions. So Vinod ji is asking, is a Sthita Prajna supposed to marry? Yes, actually a Sthita Prajna can be a married person also. So there is no such restriction that a Sthita Prajna should only be a brahmachari or a sannyasi. So you have full scope to become a Sthita Prajna, although you are married, and have two wonderful sons and a nice, wonderful wife also, who is also very equally spiritual. So definitely, with this wonderful family that you have, you can become a Sthita Prajna. All of you can become Sthita Prajna. So that is very much possible. So you don't have to worry. So you are a Grihastha, I am a Grihastha. We can all endeavor ourselves to become Sthita Prajnas by practice. It comes only by practice. So when we are not complacent, it is possible. Okay, so yes, so Hina Mataji, okay, yes, Prabhuji, he recited the Chatushloka Bhagavatam, I think, Vritrasura. Okay, Chatushloka Bhagavatam. Okay, let me recall that. Chatushloka Bhagavatam was spoken by Vishnu to Brahmaji, Chatushloka Bhagavatam. That was in the second canto. But Vritrasura, I'm not sure, let me reconfirm that to you. So, Vinodji is asking another question. How do we know what is the Supreme Lord's plan for... very interesting. Beautiful question. So this is a very interesting question. In fact, this slipped out of my mind. I wanted to touch upon this, and good that you have asked me this question. So now, since the mind is constantly planning to do this, to do that, we have our own plans, but at the same time, Krishna is also having plans. Now Arjuna, finally listening to all this Bhagavad Gita, he actually followed the plan of Krishna, just like in the case of Jayadratha I just mentioned. And because he followed the plan of Krishna, he became victorious and successful. So, how do we know what is the plan of Krishna for us? Actually, Krishna has a plan for each one of us. Each one of us. Every individual, he is very concerned, and that's why he has a plan. How do I know that plan now? That plan of Krishna can be understood by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. When you approach a Guru, then the Guru will reveal the Lord's plan to you. But now you may say, Prabhuji, I don't have any Guru right now. Okay, no problem. If you do not have a Guru, then you can associate with Sadhu. When you associate with saintly people, then they will keep instructing you about the different pastimes of the Lord. They will keep telling you the different descriptions of the philosophical aspects of what is being given in the scriptures. So when they are discussing the philosophy of our scriptures, then through the medium of the sadhu, it will get revealed to you, the plan of the Lord. And then, if not that sadhu, then Shastra. You don't have any saintly person, you are somewhere in some Arabian country, or maybe you are in a communist country, you don't have any saintly association, then you can have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, and that can actually help you. Through the Shastra also, Krishna can reveal his plan to you. And frankly speaking, I have seen many devotees, and including in my own life, many times when I have a certain question about certain thing, to know something, very mystically, it so happens that my questions are answered either by a devotee, my god brother, my god sister, or when I am reading Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, suddenly, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking, and I get an answer right here. And sometimes my own spiritual master, when I am listening to his lectures, he will reveal all the questions. Very mystically it happens. Sometimes, I read the morning quotes. You can see, even in my background here, on the top, this is my notice board. And sometimes on the notice board, we also display some quotes. So when we have certain quotes, very mystically certain quotes will reveal something that I was looking for. So, Guru, Shastra and Sadhu will help you to actually get the plan of the Lord. The Lord will reveal His plan through these three mediums. It's very much possible. And once you purify, this is when you are in this material condition. But when you come to the state of Sthita Prajna, So Vinodji, at that time you are so pure in your consciousness, the Lord will directly interact with you just like He interacted with Arjuna. He will give you instructions directly. So people who are great devotees like Swami Prabhupada, like the great acharyas that we have like Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya, we have all the great acharyas, the Lord directly spoke to them. So when you also come to that state of Sthita Prajna, the Lord will reveal directly to you. He will speak to you. But unless we reach that state, these three mediums will be there: Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. You have to take help of these three. The Lord's plan will be revealed to you. Gradually and also based on your intensity. How much are you eager to know more and progress in spiritual life? The eager you are, the plan is quickly revealed to you. If you are complacent, then okay, Lord is also complacent. He will not reveal. Okay, you want to take time, Lord will also say, okay, I will not reveal the plan to you. So we should never become complacent. Okay? So then Sai Raj is asking, okay, I had some technical difficulty, I unfortunately couldn't connect with you, no problem. And so Uma Kumar is saying that, yes, sometimes I too felt same thing. Exactly, that happens. Many times mystically, things will get revealed to you. And many times, like I told you, I came to Krishna consciousness, sometimes I feel it's accident. Because I was looking for some books, some mythological books, sometimes some crazy novels and everything in the library. And accidentally, I came across this book called Life Comes From Life, written by Prabhupada. And that one book changed my life, and today I am here speaking Bhagavad Gita, although I am not qualified. So, this is how transformation can happen. The Lord will reveal plan. It took so many months and years for me to understand that yes, Lord had this particular plan. You see? So, we don't know. Actually, frankly speaking, I started this program. I was telling this to Achyutanji also, who is not here today. I was telling him last week that I started this program with an idea to communicate with certain section of people here in Bangalore, with a particular community here in Bangalore. And today, none of them actually attend the program, and you all are attending this program. So this is very mystical thing. Although I never intended, I never knew most of you, but you see, this is how Lord connects. I started this program for someone else, they are not coming, and here you all are who are coming and listening to this particular session. So this is mystical. So this is how Lord reveals His plan. Okay, so this is how we have touched upon few very important verses today on the Bhagavad Gita.